Okay. Do you want to do some testing 1, 2, 3, or is that all right?
Yeah, that's all
Levels
good.
are all good?
That's all good, yeah. Hello! Welcome back to Building Sustainability Podcast with me, your host, Jeffrey Hart. This month's podcast is with Ben Moss from the Bristol Wood Recycling Project. This one was a pretty easy podcast to decide upon and certainly to get done because I now work there. I am working in their workshop and I make furniture from recycled materials. So there's a big stash of wood that's in their yard, and I can go out and pick all of that. And then I'm creating tables, chairs. We're making a kitchen at the moment. What other things are we doing? Benches. Oh my goodness. Yeah, lots of really exciting furniture making, which is nice for me because that's returning to my roots. I studied product design at university, so getting in the woodworking shop was always the best part of that degree. So yeah, really nice to come back to it. So yes, you will hear all about Ben and how he set up the wood recycling project, what that is, a little bit about co-ops, social engagement, good stuff like that. It's a really excellent project. I am biased. I'm definitely biased, but it's a really good project. Yeah, and even if you don't live in Bristol, it's a national scheme. So there's wood recycling all around the country. As you'll find out, I'm telling you all of the spoilers up front. So what should I tell you? A couple of things to say before we get into the episode. First of all, thank you very much to Emily, who sent us our first ever bit of fan mail. It was very, very nice to receive that, and we will definitely drop in for some cake next time we're up floating past Bradford and Avon, that is. I'm actually due to take the good ship barefoot up to Semmington in a few weeks' time, if the weather is receptive. Yeah, very much looking forward to setting sail on the boat, taking her out again. It's been a few years since I've cruised up the river, so yeah, looking forward to that. Also, if anyone feels so inclined, fan mail is always good. It's nice to know that people are listening. But also, if you get a chance, stick a review on iTunes. That makes a big difference to how many people discover our little podcast. What else have I got to say? I think that's about it. Oh, one last thing was just to say that I'm conscious that it's been a male-orientated podcast for a little bit. That is because we've had a few interviews with females that have just they just haven't happened for one reason or another. It is something I'm conscious of. I very much want to keep the gender balance. So if you were thinking that I'm a big sexist, then know that I'm not, and the balance will be addressed shortly. I think that's about it. I think you should just listen to the episode now. Enjoy Ben. He's a funny chap. I should say as well that this episode has a few naughty words. If you're offended by naughty words, then go elsewhere today. This isn't for you. I will speak to you at the end. Enjoy Ben Moss. I think that's what they
pillow talk.
They teach people for Radio 4.
Oh, really?
It's like
you're supposed to talk.
Really, just whisper to the microphone.
Yeah, really. It's
just you and me here right now.
This is the news. 6 o'clock. No, it's 6 o'clock. It's like this. It's kind of
3 in the morning.
It's the love show. Cool. So Ben Moss. Hello.
That's me.
Why don't you tell me? Well, that's a terrible start. But why don't you tell me what are we doing here at Bristol Wood Recycling Project at 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock, about half an hour ago, most of the members of staff have gone home. There are a few loitering here still. What's going on? We're sitting in the common room of our new building. I say new building. We've been here for 2 years now, but it feels new compared to the old building where we were for nearly 14 years.
Wow.
And we've got an array of rescued artifacts that we've come across from our collections, recycling wood. Bristol Wood Recycling Project recycles wood. And so some of the stuff we're surrounded by is some of the stuff we've collected over the years. There's also a large framed picture of the sorting office on Cattle Market Road that we looked at for 14 years. It's now been demolished, and the new Bristol University campus will emerge from that. But we're sitting in the common room of our new site at William Street in the centre of Bristol.
Nice. And for the uninitiated, uneducated, uninformed,
Sounds a bit judgmental.
it does, doesn't it?
But uninitiated sounds quite.
Right, I'll say that again. And
quite fun.
Splice it in. So for the uninitiated, what do you do at Bristol Wood Recycling Project?
Okay, so Bristol Wood Recycling Project is a cooperative and it's a social enterprise. It started in 2004. We have 4 objectives: to save resources from waste, to provide affordable resources to the local community, to enable social inclusion and learning through volunteering and work placement opportunities, and for the core of the business to remain self-financing. So to break that down into something a little bit more interesting than that kind of rigid framework, we go out to building sites and other places with our vans. We've got 3 vans, which are like sort of transits with cages on the back. We go to whoever's throwing away wood waste. They pay us to take away their wood waste. We take it all away as like a commercial service. We bring it back to site. We unload what's good. About 25% of what we collect is good. The rest of it we bulk up and then we take it to another place where it is what's called it's energy from waste, they call it.
Incineration.
That's it, exactly. That's what we can't use goes there, but the 25% that we can use, we take it into the yard. The nails and the screws are taken out of it. The rough ends are cut off, and then all of the wood goes into the yard, where we have a wood shop, and anyone from the general public can come and buy our wood. There's also a workshop, which you know about, Jeffrey.
I do.
Where we make all sorts of beautiful items from some of the wood that we collect, some of the wood that we are rescuing from going to waste. And then as a social enterprise, that social inclusion aspect, we work with volunteers throughout everything that we do. So in the vans, in the yard, in the workshop, and the self-financing aspect is kind of classic social enterprise, triple bottom line it's called. So there's yes, we make money to keep the thing running, but we also invest in our, what the social environmental objectives are. So we're not like a charity. We don't have supporters. We don't have people subscribing to us. We don't get grant funding. We generate all of our own money, and we kind of generate about over £250,000 income last year.
Really? Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah. It's a fully operating business. We've got 10 paid members of staff and over 1,000 volunteer days a year given to us, and over it's sort of about 10 tons of wood waste a week that we're collecting. Something like that. So over 500 tons of wood that we collect a year. So now that's the headline stuff. 1,000 volunteers, 1,000 volunteer days, 500 tons of wood a year and 10 members of staff.
Yeah. What sort of places are you collecting the wood from?
It's generally construction, new build construction, be it for office stuff or house building. But we can also get people who are ripping up their old decking, or the university that's clearing out their old lecture hall, or Mrs. Miggins, whose husband was a carpenter and squirreled all of his wood away and has recently passed away, and she'd like us to come and collect it. To the manufacturing company who gets all their metal detection equipment delivered in cardboard, in wooden boxes, and we have to come and pick them up.
Right.
So yeah, all sorts, just like all sorts, we collect from all sorts of places, really.
And that's pretty impressive. So it's you said £250,000 revenue. Is that what you said?
Yeah, income. Yeah,
income.
Yeah.
So that's all from people's, what would be thrown away, what would be going to landfill. Landfill?
They've really perfected the kind of energy from waste. Resource recovery was the words I was struggling to regurgitate, because they're kind of it's new speak, really. Resource recovery. I mean, it's good. It's not a hole in the ground, but it is just burning it. But in the 16 years that we've been operating, the world of waste has evolved considerably. There's very little goes to landfill now. Most stuff is sorted, but what's interesting is that we're able to reuse a third of what we collect. 2/3 of it goes up in smoke, effectively. If you were to go to those sites where they're chipping up everything that we're taking, even if they were to reuse like a fraction of it, 10% of it, think how much value that would create. Because the value here isn't just we're getting paid to collect the woods and then maybe we're selling it. There's also the value of, there's the social value of the community that is mobilized towards dealing with that, that turning that waste into something of value, resource, but also, and the meaning therein, but also the, as glib as it might sound, the customers who actually come and buy stuff from here, and the kind of sense of meaning in a very shallow way, but like this stuff was once waste, a reconnection with like, what is this stuff that we're buying, consuming? Where's this stuff going? Like, these are all really big questions. I think societally we have to think about, where has this thing come from and where is it going when I'm done with it? So, the value that's generated here from a third of what we collect, and we collect a tiny amount in comparison to what you see at these sites. So, it's remarkable what we achieve, and it's also equally remarkable about like what could they be doing with all that waste instead of what was throwing it in a hole and now burning it.
And so, what sort of people do you get coming in here for like buying the wood, is there a model customer, or is
beard, glasses, beanie hat, slightly long hair, curly.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I look in the mirror at something like that. No, it depends on the day. Saturday is a retail day, and we have a very kind of different customer, or not very different kind of customer, but can be quite different from during the week. But generally, it's not possible to generalize the customer. You can get everyone from someone who's moved to Bristol recently from another part of the country and have just bought a house and they've got some money to spend on doing it up, and they love our aesthetic and our ethic, and they're just like, great, build me a kitchen, to a student who is just wanting a cheap bit of ply that they can do some art on, to a bunch of Extinction rebels who want some wood that they can build a something for an action, or a graffiti artist, a famous graffiti artist who might want to come and buy some wood, to some dude who's doing up a house to rent out to students, is just trying to do something cheap. We get everyone. And when you're serving these people, you can have a roller coaster of time. You can fall in love with people and despise people on a daily basis. But such is the rich texture of life and the humans who exist within it. No, we don't hate that many customers. That's quite extreme. But we get, there are a lot of really amazing people who come and buy wood here from all sorts of backgrounds, and you can always get a fairly good bit of chat with them about what they're trying to do, and they might also start responding about wanting to know more about here. So again, that's kind of part of the value of here, I think, is that it's a different kind of experience from if you were to go to your industrial estate, industrial unit, DIY company.
Yeah.
It's just going to be into something slightly different from what we do here.
I was particularly impressed with the range of woods you've got here, because there's really everything from little bits of hardwood, old floorboards, some tropical hardwood, chiming big bits of stuff, ply, scaffolds, 4x2, 3x2, yeah. Oh, and the beautiful slab cuts, Waney edge slab stuff. So there is, I guess while people don't know that, they're not going to a shop where there's always a stock of a particular dimension. They know that there's enough of a range to be able to find what they need.
Yeah, I think generally, I mean, people. You need to come back here regularly. I think that's, we always say to customers, come in, if they're looking for something specific, it's just come and have a look. I describe it as a jumble sale of wood. You can get all sorts, or maybe a car boot sale of wood, because, it's a car boot sale. There's just some bits where oh my God, where's that from? I think if you're a volume house builder or whatever, this place is just not really what you need when you need consistency. I need 30 sheets of 8x4 18 mil. It's it's fairly unlikely you're going to get that here. But on the odd chance, you might. Very odd chance, but it's possible. But if someone's looking for that, some dude came in earlier with a leg or I don't know what you call it, but the bit connecting the legs of an old chair, a bit of oak that was full of woodworm, and he was looking for a bit that would replace it. It's we've got a box of stuff there. You might be able to find what you need. We get wood from a community-owned sawmill on the other side of the Severn Estuary over in Wales, the Wentwood Estate. So we get these really cool bits of hardwood and softwood that's sort of locally sourced and relatively sustainably managed. I mean, I say relatively sustainably managed because it's not going to have the FSC timber mark, but that's because it's farmers with a tree here and there that they're
pulling out the occasional tree rather than clear cutting
a
woodland.
So we get lots of that stuff, and we also get some really random stuff that, if the patterning of the universe is working correctly, just when you're scratching your head going, what on earth are we going to do with that? Someone will come in and be that's exactly what I'm looking for. And if things aren't working quite right, we've had it for months on end and someone's decided to get rid of it in one way or another. And the next day someone will come in and say, I'm looking for this. And you're but it's kind of, there are all sorts of odd bits that turn up here and loiter for a while and then go. And kind of like a reclamation yard, there are some things where it's we've got to keep that for the way that it's been handcrafted, the way that it is that thing. And we've got to keep hold of it because someone will want that. But there's also a constant tension here of space. What can we hang on to? As any good kind of hoarder will know, beware hoarding too much stuff, because before you know it, every nook and cranny is going to be full of stuff that only you know what it is, and no one can find anything, and you get all sorts of stagnant chi energy all over the place. You just got to, you got to keep the stock flowing as well. So yeah.
What's the story with the big? It's not a piano. It's
an organ thing.
yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things. So it's like, what's that doing there? It's like it stands at about 6 foot tall. It's about 3.5 feet wide, about 2 feet deep. It's got a foot pump on the bottom where you pump that, and then it puts air through the organ, and then you can play the organ. I've got no idea where it turned up from. Someone just brought it in, and one of the co-op members of staff were like, yeah, that's great, we'll have that, and hopefully someone will turn up and say that's exactly the one I'm looking for, rather than in a few months' time we say we've got to get rid of that thing, and then 2 days later someone turns up and goes, oh, I was looking for that.
I'm looking for an organ.
Yeah, well, yeah. Might happen.
So one of the things I find really interesting about this organisation, do you call it an organisation?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that the right term?
Yeah, it is an organisation. It's a business. At the end of the day, it is a business. It's a company limited by guarantee. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's also it's a cooperative, and we have members, which means it is kind of like an organisation, because you kind of got to organise.
Yeah.
So,
it takes more organisation than most.
Yeah, it's an organisation and business. I mean, that's kind of part of the social element, the social enterprise aspect. You know, sort of doesn't quite fit any box perfectly, which is great.
Perfect. So yeah, the thing I find kind of most interesting is the social inclusion element. And so on sort of how many sort of volunteers would you have here on any given day?
Well, let's have a look at the board, shall we? Look, the board in front of us says today, which is that will be Thursday, the 5th of February, I think. We've got
March.
Thanks, March 2020.
I almost wrote 2018 today.
Okay, well, there you go. I might get wrong with February, but at least I know it's 2020, I think. We've got Graham, Mick, Vic, Mark, Lindsay, Vincent, Anna, and Jane. Jane only in the morning. So Thursday, we've got there 7 or 7.5 volunteers coming in. And today we had 3. Did we have in here today? Wednesdays can be slightly different. Generally, we're getting upwards of 4 volunteers a day, and on some days we'll have a whole load, depending on how many staff there are, because if there are lots of collections going on, and if there's lots going on in the workshop and lots going on in the yard and full staffing, then actually we can have way more than 8. We can have 10, and yes. So,
and what is it that the volunteers are doing?
Well, as I said, out in the van, in the yard, in the workshop.
They are doing all of those things.
They're doing all those things. When they get in the workshop, they need to have done 10 visits, because the workshop, there's an extra level of kind of an extra layer of health and safety and technicalities about using things, and so there's a degree of wanting to have some kind of investment of time, so that we know that it's an appealing thing to be able to get into the workshop. And some volunteers, some people come for 4 or 5 times and decide it's not really what they want. Some people come for years and years. One of our longest standing volunteers has been coming in for 14 years now.
So almost since the beginning, then.
Yeah, since really early days. So obviously, if someone's just going to be coming 5 times, to spend a load of time in the workshop to take time out and show them how tools are used and what we can produce from them, that it's better to know that then, having invested some time in showing them how to do it, that we'll be able to work alongside each other for a bit longer, so that both parties can start benefiting from that investment of time.
Yeah. Okay. And so the volunteers will spend their day just aiding and assisting, the business achieve its aims, and to sort of create the value from the timber that's collected. And
I mean, for a volunteer, there's standard. Let's kind of let's imagine a day, you know, they'll come in here for 8:45 in the morning. We'll all have our nice tea and coffee. We'll do the morning meeting at 9 where we'll talk about what we're doing for the day. And then at 9:15, everyone will scatter to their various directions, with their health and safety equipment on, their steel toe cap boots and their gloves and their high-vis jacket that we provide here. They might go out in the van with Jacob and they'll go to a construction site. So they'll have to go through the kind of site entrance there and get directed to the corner of the yard, and then they will help with the other two people in the van. They'll help load in all of that wood, be it a load of pallets and maybe some ply and OSB and some lengths of 3x2 that the builders have decided isn't worth them keeping. Working in all conditions, you know, in rain and mud and in blazing sunshine. And work there safely and efficiently. That's, you know, that work can be pretty physical, gets you fit, gets you tired. It's really good for some people. You know, if some people have been at home for whatever reason, actually getting out and having some routine and doing some physical exercise is really important. Then they'll fall back into the van with Jacob and they'll drive back here and they'll get back here in time for lunch. And we'll all sit round and have our lunch from 1:45 until 1:30. And we get our lunches from a place called Tiffin Time, who are nearby on just off Old Market, which is a sort of fairly interesting part of Bristol that's undergone lots of changes in the last 10 years or so. Our tiffin time gets delivered by bicycle, and we all sit around and have either our meat option or our veggie option, and people will chew the cud, shoot the breeze, talk about stuff. And that's a really convivial thing. You know, you'll get everyone sitting around the table from, you know, volunteers who are here on their first time to, volunteers who've been here for 13 years to directors who've been here since the start, and people chat, whatever. Then in the afternoon, maybe the volunteer, having unloaded all that wood, will then set upon taking all the nails out of the 3x2 and cleaning up all those bits of ply, and then they'll speak to Jen in the shop and say, where should we put it all, and put it into the racks and maybe label some of the stuff, get the right price on it so we can sell it. And then we'll have a tea break at 3:00 and for a quarter of an hour, you know, have another little chat, and then maybe they'll go into the workshop and help alongside Jeffrey or Caleb or Liz, and maybe they'll finish that sanding job or that bookshelf or that bench top that's been made. And then at sort of 5:45, we'll gather back in this room in the common room and just do a sort of debrief, check out, see how everyone is, see how everyone's learnt things. Ask when people next want to come in, fill in the board, and then as a volunteer, you know, boots off. Oh, hang on, maybe they've done their 10th visit. They've done their 10th visit and they're awarded their hooded top, the Bristol Wood Recycling Project branded top that only volunteers who've done more than 10 visits and only members of staff get. So maybe there's a little fanfare of that, and then the volunteer will get back on their bicycle or walk to the bus stop or go to Temple Meads. You know, we reimburse travel costs, and they'll go home weary and satisfied that they've done something really productive and learnt some stuff and hung out with some nice people, and and felt a sense of agency within a world where there's lots of waste happening and lots of kind of lots of stuff to grizzle about. There's a little corner of positivity going on.
And do you think that's the sort of main thing? I guess what I'm asking is what's the sort of reasons that people come here? Like why would a volunteer want to volunteer here?
There's, I mean, broadly speaking, and every single individual will have a different story, obviously, but broadly speaking, it's a number of things. Commonly, it's learning skills, wanting to do something with wood. Beyond that, it's get out of the house, be part of a community, meet people, do stuff. And beyond all of that, it's a sense of agency, of just like being some people just want to, you know, do something with wood. Some people want to stop waste happening.
Yeah,
They want
fighting for the cause. And,
yeah, there's a bigger kind of bigger universal issue that they're participating in and wanting to improve. And, it can be anything from like, I just want to get out of the house to I want to save the world, and maybe in the transition, maybe there'll be a transition from one to the other. So, at the end of the day, what we want to do is provide at Bristol Wood Recycling Project, we want to provide a safe, comfortable environment where people feel welcome, feel empowered, feel like we give them the resources that they need so as to learn and to grow and to feel like, they've got that sense of agency.
Nice. So how did all this come about? You've obviously had quite a few years to practice and to sort of grow into what's happening now. How does one start a wood recycling project? So, like, personally, starting it was... Because you've been here since the beginning, right?
Yeah. Nicola Padden and I started this back in 2004. And for me, certainly, I just arrived in Bristol and I had come from... graduated from university a couple of years before, felt very depressed about the state of the world, done some travelling, saw, seen what was going on elsewhere. It was like, it's all a bit of a mess all over the place. Lots of positive stuff, but I studied anthropology and geography and was aware of social issues and environmental issues and the effect on people around the world. People of a place finding that their worlds are being changed very quickly by globalization. Briefly put, I suppose. I came back to the UK and got involved in organic farming and permaculture and did a course in sustainable land use, and then went back to travel and went and did some work in Southern Africa, sort of volunteering in Malawi, growing fruit trees and making compost and sharing with community how you make compost and how you look after fruit trees. And came back to the UK and went, that wasn't quite what I was doing, where I should go, and moved to Bristol. And I was very like, I just want to do something positive. And I volunteered at a place called the Community Recycling Network and met Nicola there. And at that annual conference that we were both volunteering, there was a guy called Richard Mehmed from Brighton and Hove Wood Recycling Project. And Richard Mehmed, so this would have been May 2003. Richard Mehmed was saying, Brighton and Hove has been going for 5 years and it's got, it's 3 years and we've got 5 people employed and every city should have one of these. And Nicola and I were like, that's amazing. Let's do that. It wasn't quite as straightforward as let's do it in Bristol, but we were like, that'd be really cool to do in Bristol. And I then got a job at the Community Recycling Network and received an email because Lizzie was on holiday and I had to receive all the emails and distribute them around the office. And there was an email from Bristol City Council saying, we've got a site available rent-free for a short period of time. Is a bit grubby, needs a lick of paint, but suitable for a community project. I got in contact with the guy, John Boss, and said, can we have a look at this place? Nicola and I went there with Rick Mehmed, and Rick was like, bite their arm off, get it. So we put a proposal in saying, Bristol Wood Recycling Project is doing this, and we're going to collect wood, and we're going to work with volunteers from all sorts of backgrounds, and we're going to sell wood, and we just need a site. And the council said, yes, great, you can have that ground floor of that building, and you can have the parking area out back. And John Boss said to us, I don't think the arena's ever going to happen.
Right. That was what the land.
That was the guy.
Originally.
That was originally why the building was vacated, because there was this idea back in the early 2000s that there would be an arena built in Bristol, and this building was on the site of where it was going to be, and the council decided to leave the building because it would need refurbishing completely to make it disabled access, because of some legislation that came through back in 2003, I guess it was, and they thought there's no point us refurbishing this plainly, unrefurbishable building. It was like a Victorian cottage. We'll just leave it empty because it's going to get demolished, and it didn't get demolished, and they left it empty for a few months, and squatters were trying to get in, and that's when this shout out went out. The arena itself was shelved completely 3 years later, maybe 2 years later, with much aghast from the Bristolian newspaper reading massive and like shock horror, hundreds of thousands spent on consultation fees. But
they started to build bridges and
no, this was 2007 or 6.
Right.
It all went quiet until 2013 when the cadaver was resuscitated, brought back from the dead.
Right.
The idea of an arena in the centre of Bristol was all kind of hot to trot again. In 2015, it was all about this arena. So we actually we were there from 2004, and like I said, we moved out there two years ago. The short period of time was actually nearly 14 years.
Right.
The rent-free aspect went from rent-free, it was $5,000 a year by the end, which is peanuts for city centre location. But, so the question was, how could you do something like this? There are a set of circumstances that you need in place. I think you need to be in a city or a town. You need to have construction going on. You need a location where you can be in the centre of town, and you need it ideally to be subsidised. Subsidised to the point whereby a self-sustaining business with a good identity can survive, because that's effectively what we did. That, I believe, considering the vast wealth that can be found in this day and age, there should be some wealthy landowners out there somewhere, or some philanthropists who are like, hell yeah, I'm going to hand over a plot of, this site,
brownfield site somewhere.
It could just be, this kind of project could be run from a few porta cabins and a bunch of outdoor space, as long as it was secure. There's such a need for low cost space for social enterprises, whatever their endeavor be, recycling or food or arts, that's what we need. That's community space is needed to affordable community space. And I think, austerity has led to an end for councils to do that, but there's such a need for it. And I think that things are developing, new forms emerge of property ownership, and cooperative owning of buildings could provide space. So it's a tricky one. How does something like this work? Is you need to find some people who basically committed to wanting to make something like this work.
So
you want to make it
your core team.
Yeah, you need some people who are willing to make a difference, who want to make a difference in the world and kind of work hard. And Richard Mehmed, who I mentioned from Brighton and Hove, he went on to set up the National Community Wood Recycling Project. Now that's been going for quite a long time now, probably 15 years.
Right.
And they have set up 30 projects over the country now, more than 30 around the country. Community wood recycling is what they're called now. And they've got the templates, they've got the blueprints. It's a social franchise. The models are the same. Collect wood, sell wood, make stuff, work with volunteers. There's different iterations of it, whether you're going to be a CIC or a co-op or a not-for-profit, or if you're going to be under the wing of a national charity, but it's essentially the same thing. As long as, there's prerequisites of brand and identity in terms of national enables us to collect from national house builders, and in order to do so, we've got to make sure that we are performing within health and safety, wearing the correct PPE, operating in the correct way, for those kind of people working on construction sites, CSCS cards are often what's necessary to work on a construction site. The volunteers that we work with don't have CSCS card, but the major national and international construction companies that National Brokers deals with,
So the national
Community Wood Recycling Project broker deals with these
Yeah.
international and national companies, and the volunteers don't have to have CSCS cards because the inductions that we do here are so thorough.
I sat in
But they're
the other day.
yes, and they're to this framework that National provides. So that's all part of the, if you are going to be a wood recycler, you need to play by the games that National put in place. But there's huge freedom within that, and the strapline for community wood recycling is saving resources, changing lives, and that's kind of what it's about. So they've done amazing work. We are one of the oldest ones, along with Brighton. We're the second oldest, and great reputation, I think, that we've got. But
certainly you're like an institution in Bristol. I think everyone, they know the name.
it's known. It's even known internationally, I think, sometimes.
Yeah?
Well, it will be now.
Well, there have been visitors here over the years. We've had visitors from Korea and from the States and Europe, and there is, and it's really cool. I mean, this kind of model, cooperative, National Community Wood Recycling Project, and the other groups under that, we're the only one that's a cooperative.
Right.
So I will blow the trumpet for the co-op movement, but essentially, there should be social enterprises dealing with there's so much waste, and there's so much social value that can be generated through approaching what could otherwise be wasted. And yes, skip companies or waste companies deal with waste, but I wonder about the future where it's co-ops, and there's the kind of triple bottom line where, you need to make money, but you also need to invest in the community, and you need to invest in the environment. And that's what the future of business should be about. Fuck profit. Profit makes things work, but or maybe I should just say fuck shareholders.
Right.
This isn't about shareholder value. It's about, yes, people are fairly paid here, or we're trying to do that. Everyone's on more than a living wage here, but we want to make sure that we reinvest in the business so that we can keep on furthering our objectives. And the volunteers who are part of this and the members who are part of the co-op have a great sense of well-being by participating here. And that's really what the economy needs to be about. It's the well-being of society and well-being of the planet, not about extraction of profit and distribution of profit to distant bodies and individuals.
That was a good rant at the end there.
No rant. Truth. That's truth.
I guess there's more to say on the co-op. Do people know what co-ops are?
I can explain a little bit about co-op.
Yeah. Well, you just for anyone that might not be aware of anything other than the co-op supermarket.
Okay, so a cooperative is a service that is provided by the community that the service is for. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's kind of like the people who are the recipients of the thing are the people who own the thing as well. That's it's kind of complex and simple at the same time. So here at Bristol Wood Recycling Project, we are employees once they pass probation become co-op members. Volunteers once they reach certain criteria of involvement, so more than a year of volunteering and an ongoing contribution to the organisation and an understanding of the business and culture, they can join as well. So we have these employee and supporter members. Collectively, we come together at meetings and we decide on the ongoing kind of strategy and direction of the business. Mm-hmm. We've got other kind of platforms whereby decisions are made and directions are taken. But essentially, the co-op members are like the shareholders. They're once you become a member, you are kind of an owner of the company.
Right.
So, it's a really great way of doing business. Co-ops have been around for more than 150 years now. They first came out of up north in Manchester.
Yes. Liz was just saying that co-op museum exists.
Yeah, and they can. I wouldn't say they disappeared. They're having a real resurgence now. There are a lot here in Bristol. We've got the Cube Cinema, the Bristol Bike Project, the Bristol Cable, which is a media outlet, a newspaper, effectively, that is owned by the people who receive it. You know, so the co-op supermarket, the way that works is that as a customer, you can also be a member, which you get a redistribution of. You're kind of like a shareholder, so you can get dividends back. So that's kind of a bit of a kind of simplified way of doing things. But there's a vast ecology of co-ops, from worker co-ops and consumer co-ops and different levels of participation, and like there can be economic participation where you have to kind of invest in the thing, to just kind of participation of regular commitment. There are housing co-ops. There's cooperative farms. You know, there's loads of stuff, and it's really exciting in this time where mega business, global interest, like conglomeration of things are happening. It's a very interesting kind of emergence of different ways of doing things. It's a real kind of quite a rich quality to it. The co-ops are sometimes mocked because it takes so long for the decisions to be made, but I think that's more of a demonstrative of like the quality that there is within it. And if you want everyone to be involved in it and own it, then you need that kind of quality of engagement with decision making, because then there's a consensus like, yes, we're doing that. And it's a very different structure from a hierarchical one where there's just some directors and some shareholders, and they decide what's going on.
Yeah,
we're the directors, we're the shareholders. As members, we can decide collectively which way to go about it. So that's quite that'll do on the co-op kind of thing. I hope people might understand that. Yeah,
well, there's definitely lots of information out there that people can tap into, and I'll put some links.
Yeah. Co-ops UK, a good place to start.
There you go, yes. Tell me about this building we're in. It's come about in a fairly unique way.
Yeah, definitely. So when we were having to leave Cattle Market Road, when the churning of the decision making of what was going to happen to that area, which is called the Temple Quarter Zone, when we finally discovered that, it was the university that would be developing the area, and it wouldn't be an arena. Or no, there was going to be an arena. I can't remember. This is really boring. And anyway, when we found out that we were going to have to leave that area, the Temple Quarter Zone, at the end of 2017, then we really put out the shout out to our networks of like, we need to find a home now. And sometimes the universe conspires to make things happen, and through beautiful serendipity, we found ourselves outside this building, which was 800 meters away from our old site, and the owner of it happened to be someone who we used to collect wood from, and we were able to get the phone number of, and we were able to discuss it with them about purchasing it. We negotiated that we would rent it until we were able to work out some of the legal complications of the deeds and the deeds involved. But once we had clear title of it, then we would be able to purchase it for an amount. When clear title was achieved, we then went to Triodos Bank, which is Bristol-based social and ecological bank. Their UK office is here in Bristol, but they're actually from the Netherlands. We went to Triodos Bank and said, we've got this site. We really want to buy it. We haven't got money to enable us to get a mortgage. We have got a business that is very successful which makes a modest surplus each year. We've spanked most of the money that we've saved over 14 years and just moving site and paying a year's rent up front. But we believe that we can, we're a strong, offer to people, if we could figure out an investment into this place. And Triodos Bank said, yes, we can do this. We've got a crowdfund platform, whereby you can reach out to the community of their investors and our people, and we can raise the money that way. So what it was a bond offer which was open to anyone to invest in. It was a minimum investment of £50, up to £20,000 was how much you could invest for the ISA. So it came under an ISA package. Because it was through Triodos Bank, it was Financial Services Authority certified. So it's all like legit. 6-year investment with a 4% interest rate. And the bond holders basically own the building. We pay back the bondholders at 4% of their investment each year. And at the end of the 6th year, we pay back the bondholders in the entirety. Right. So the idea is at the end of the 6 years, we will have, so at that 4% that we're paying people back, it's kind of like a subsidized, it's like an interest only mortgage.
Yeah.
We will squirrel away a surplus each year. So at the end of year 6, we will be able to go to the bank and say, we now have X amount of money and we want a mortgage. And that mortgage will enable us to pay back all of the bondholders, and then the building is ours. The building is ours anyway. We have bought the building. We raised £430,000 in 3 weeks.
Nice.
Last year. Over half the money came from within Bristol. Over half the investors came from within Bristol.
Nice.
So it's very much like a local, lots of people from our community, some volunteers, some employees, customers, all sorts of people just like, yeah, we believe in this. And Triodos made it so that 50 quid was the minimum investment. So if people wanted to have like a chunk of BWRP, they could. And that's amazing because for 14 years, when we moved into Cattle Market Road, that was always with the idea that we would be, it was a short-term thing. The initial lease was 3 months. Right. 3 months rolling contract. And then we had it for 3 years. I think at one point we had a 5-year lease, which to me was like, holy moly, that was amazing. But still, and I was like, but at the end of that, we're going to have to find somewhere else. But that thing kept on ticking forward. So it was, kind of like playing an arcade game, when you put like another, times right, I put another 50p in for another go. It was kind of like that, but you knew that at some point it was just going to run out. That was quite a source of stress in the long term. It was like an uncertainty. We could never really fully invest in the business. People personally couldn't, like, within their own faith of like, this is like the future, but it was just a difficult thing. We're here, like we're sitting in this common room. This is our home. We've got plants. We're talking about how we're going to, the outside of the building is beautiful. Any listener should come and visit or at least look at the website. We've got beautiful murals outside that a brilliant volunteer has done for us, a guy called Pat Dorr. There's a giant saw to scale, on the corner of our building. We've got an amazing workshop. We're talking about further development of the place. It's just like, this, going back to what I was talking about earlier of like subsidized spaces for community projects. If you give a community project a permanent home and you have the right culture and the right values and the right kind of vision, amazing things can flourish. And that we have been able to do that is great. And I really hope that we can inspire others to do that. And I hope other people can kind of also kind of keep us in check about like what's the right thing to be doing when you're privileged enough to kind of own your own space, because it is when so many people are struggling, are either struggling to find a home, businesses struggling to find homes, people are struggling to find homes, and this is a safe place for lots of us now, and that's an amazing thing to have and to cherish.
Well, thank you again to Ben. Thanks for taking the time to chat to us. And thank you as well to all the people down at Bristol Wood Recycling Project. So if you are in Bristol, do come down and check out all the great selection of timber and volunteering opportunities. If you're not in Bristol, then go to communitywoodrecycling.org.uk and find your local project. And if you're in Brighton and happen to have some land or know of some land or some premises, they are in the last few weeks of being in their premises. They are looking for another spot, just like Bristol did. So if you are Brighton way, and I know we've got quite a few listeners down there, then do please get in touch. You can find out about their project at woodrecycling.org.uk. I think that's it. I think that's all. Thanks again for listening. Thank you again to Ben. Until the next time. Speak soon. Bye-bye.